Good evening to everyone. Professor Bandara Vaninayaka, members of the academia, distinguished invitees, the students and others. It is a great honor to have been invited me for this outstanding occasion. At the very outset, I must congratulate these students who have undergone 1 year training with their respective partners. Congratulations. Then I must congratulate the faculty of the University of Kelaniya for arranging this type of a course. I can vividly remember a delegation from Bhutan came to Sri Lanka in the year 2019. We learned a lot of things from Bhutan. Why? In the World Anti-Corruption Ranking, Bhutan is one of the least corrupt countries. And we have learned their systems. Then we have learned the systems in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is one of the least corrupt countries in Asia. Having learned those systems, what we understood was that in their educational systems, they teach not only bribery and corruption and forensic accounting and auditing. Then we summon all the vice chancellors, deans to the parliament committee. And I can remember I made a plea in the presence of distinguished members of parliament to organize and arrange, commence new courses in their respective universities. So it is heartening to see that University of Kelaniya has taken this creative step in organizing, having their mind in reducing the bribery and corruption in this country. Congratulations, University of Kelaniya. What is creativity? I just heard the fine dialogue of these young girls and boys. They always talk about think beyond box. Think beyond box. Now, what is forensic? As a criminal lawyer, I will compare forensic work in a court setting and a forensic work that is expected from you. In a court setting, what do you mean by forensic? You have to reconstruct the crime in the mind of the trial judge. The best example is that former High Court judge, Honorable Sarath was killed no sooner he came from court to his residence down Bullas Lane, here Sarna Road. He was killed by 4 gunmen. There seems to be a witness also. But we can't rely totally on the testimony of witness. Then what do? We always try to collect scientific evidence. What is scientific evidence? At the crime scene, there were empty cartridges. 1 week later, when the 2 assailants were arrested, they were in possession of 2 guns. Now the question arises is whether the 2 empty cartridges that were found at the crime scene were in fact fired from this gun. Who can express that opinion? Can you express that opinion? Certainly you can't. Can I express that opinion? Certainly I can't. Then who can do that? There are experts in the government analyst department. They are called forensic ballistic expert. What would they do? They would take these 2 guns collected by the police from the suspects. They will go to their lab. And they take new cartridges and fire in their lab. No sooner you fire, these cartridges would have certain marks. Those marks are unique to that gun. microscopically you can look at those marks. Then you have the cartridges found at the crime scene. Then you compare those microscopically. Identical, that is the DNA of the gun. Then 100%, the ballistic expert can express an opinion. He will come to the court, he has never seen the crime. Normally, no person is allowed to give evidence from a witness box coming out with your ideas. No one is allowed. But experts, if they demonstrate that they have acquired that expertise, court would allow with regard to that particular science to express an opinion. Now the ballistic expert would say, my background is this, my academic qualification is this, my professional qualification is this, therefore I certainly say this cartridge was fired from this particular gun. Then court is not bound. The court must become a student and learn from the expert and convince themselves. Court must become a student and learn. If the court is convinced only, he can accept the evidence of the ballistic expert. On the other hand, for the accused, there are good defense counsel. What would they do? They will cross-examine the expert. They would say, you don't have the expertise. How did you take the photos or the photographs of the comparison of the ballistic microscopic comparisons? Did you produce those things before the court? They will ask those questions. Can you remember? There was a famous case, Father Matthew Pierce's case. There the question arose how the accused introduced insulin systematically to the deceased body. Then the defense counsel learned the art of medicine. Mr. R.I. Obesekar, they learned. Why I am saying this? What is your role as a forensic accountant? Like, we never had such accountants. In my career, I must confess, I have never led the evidence of forensic accountant. Why? We are, in loose terms, we say, a caterpillar. Normal prosecutions are like that. But if you want to trap white-collar criminals, that takes the huge amount of corruptions in this country, you need to have forensic accountants. What do? They will go after the money trail and see whether there is money laundering. We have the director of the Financial Investigation Unit, Central Bank here, and you can help her one day. How you go after financial trail? Then very soon we are going to introduce the proceeds of crime law in this country. There, the necessity of your role is important. Not only that, bribery commission, what do? They conduct investigations into bribery and corruption. What do you mean by bribery? Bribery means, if I am a public servant, if I accept any kind of a gratification, that is called bribery. How do you prove that? Complainant would come and say. Thereafter, if the complainant say, already I have given a part of the bribery, but this man is asking more and more, then bribery commission will organize the trap. That means complainant would go and meet the accused again. In the presence of one of the officers, he's a decoy. He pretend that he is a friend or the relative of the complainant, and in his presence, the accused would accept the money. Then they are trapped. That is how the chief of staff of the presidential secretariat was caught in a 5-star hotel, and another person who accompanied him. Well, our decoy he basically looked like an Indian gentleman. Why? The complainant is an Indian gentleman. So we arranged our decoy and he spoke in Hindi also. So otherwise, these public servants, they have the good sense. They will really understand these, they are from bribery commission. So those are bribery offenses. What do you mean by corruption? Most of the public servants, they are called upon to take a decision. When you take the decision might go wrong. Just because the decision is wrong, you don't commit a crime. But if you take that decision with a dishonest mind, dishonest intention, then we say it is a corruption. How do you prove the dishonest mind? Mind is the most difficult thing in this world. As Lord Buddha said, mind is the most difficult thing in this world. So then, what are the elements of dishonesty in the mind? If I take this decision, knowing very well or intentionally, by this decision, there will be an undue advantage to a third party. Or there will be an undue loss to a third party. Or there will be an undue loss to the government. With that intention, if I take a decision, that is sufficient to constitute the offense of corruption. Daughters and sons, what is your role? You have to demonstrate and circumstantially establish the mind the public servant had. Now you will go into corporate world. Unlike earlier, now we have made the private sector bribery as a criminal offense. We never had this. Only in the new Anti-Corruption Act, we introduced this private sector bribery. Private sector bribery means if there is a corporate entity, a person working in the corporate entity, on behalf of the corporate entity demands and accept any gratification, that is called private sector bribery. In addition to that, we have introduced a new concept called sexual bribery. In the private sector, there are many instances sexual bribery is taken from ladies to do any kind of a work. And if you, even the public sector or even the private sector, if you accept such thing, it has now been made a criminal offense. On top of that, we have realized the root cause for the bribery and corruption in this country. Root cause is the conflict of interest. What do you mean by conflict of interest? In colloquial language, I would say, ape ekata salakana එක. ඌ අපේ එකෙක්. ඌට පොඩ්ඩක් support එකක් දෙමු. That means, if I am a public servant, if I am called upon to take a decision, if the person who is seeking my assistance is a personal friend of mine, if he is a relation of mine, if he is a close classmate of mine, or the university mate, then what should I do? I shouldn't take that decision. I must immediately tell my immediate boss, I have this conflict. What shall I do? Then the boss will take a decision. My dear, never touch that. Don't touch that. I will appoint someone else to take that decision. What is the criminal offense? In the new Anti-Corruption Act, we never had these things earlier. The criminal offense is if I don't divulge that to the authorities, then I commit a criminal offense. Maybe in the private sector bribery, we have not yet got any experience, but I can give you some international exposure. You know the famous company Rolls-Royce. They are very good in preparing the aircraft engine. They sell these engines to other countries like Asian countries, African countries, and even to Indonesia. What they have done, the Rolls-Royce is a very good brand. They have sold these items, more than 1,000 items, motors, the aircraft engines, to Indonesia. While doing that, what they have done, they have bribed the officials in Indonesia. In Indonesia, their airline is Garuda Airlines. They have trapped the chief executive officer of Garuda Airlines. Then he was given the bribe. The person in charge of this operation knew that. He felt very guilty. After some time, he became the whistleblower and informed the authorities in United Kingdom. There is a separate agency conducting this investigation, Serious Fraud Office. They conducted investigation with whose support? The forensic accountants. Unfortunately, up to now, the investigations in the bribery commissions were done by the police officers. With all due respect to them, that is one of the drawbacks in the quality of our investigations. They may be good and trapping when the bribery is taken by someone. But if you want to go through the corruption investigations, white-collar crimes investigations, money laundering investigations, process of crime investigation, they never had this academic or professional background. Now what we have done, we have made bribery commission a truly independent body. So therefore they have the power to recruit whatever they want, whoever they want. They are not bound by the public administration circulars. They are not bound by the treasury circulars. This is how other countries have done. So what happened to Rolls-Royce case? Ultimately, the company they were found guilty. Then, should the Rolls-Royce company, should they close the company? This is a very debatable issue. Who are the owners of the company? Who are the shareholders of the company? There are innocent investors. There are several thousands of workers. If something happens to this company, what will happen? It is a great drawback to the entire industry. So when it comes to corporate criminal liability, novel principle has been introduced in the UK, US, and other countries. What is that principle? When a corporation or company is indicted, what will happen? There can be a deferred prosecution agreement. What do you mean by deferred prosecution agreement? Indictment has already been sent out to the court, but the accused gives an undertaking. The court will impose certain conditions. For 5 years, you have to rectify your system. You have to pay damages and compensation to the victims. You must have a very transparent system, and hereinafter, the law enforcement agencies must be given opportunity to examine your accounts hereinafter. Subject to that condition, what will happen? The case is temporarily halted for 5 years. If the company fulfills those obligations, that is the end of the case. If the company falls and violates those conditions, what will happen? What will happen is case will commence again. So therefore, this is a win-win situation for the stakeholders as well as for the general public in that country. I will give another example. You know, there's a famous company called Siemens company that is in Germany. They are very good in making railway lines and railway coaches. Now what happened? They sell these products to Venezuela. Then it was detected that they bribed the Venezuelan authorities. It is the forensic accountants, they come to the picture. In Indonesian case, not only the CEO was bribed, but the Prime Minister Suharto, his son was also bribed. Why? He could have influence over the CEO of Garuda Airline. So Suharto's son was given a Rolls-Royce car. And that was also caught, thanks to these forensic accountants. So now, ladies and gentlemen, you see the important role that you can play in as a forensic accountant. When you go to a private company and do your work as a forensic accountant, what will happen? You will be given full support by those people, and they will pretend that they are innocent. But you have to be extremely careful. The people that you are trying to get help in those private sector must be very cunning. I will give one example from a Jataka Katha that is called Kuhaka Jatake. Right? There was a Tapasya, hermit. He has visited the particular village and he is very pious. The head of the village visited this Tapasya and he was so impressed with the manners, the patience. And the head of the village, he is a very rich man. He used to treat this Tapasya in a proper way. Then head of the village is thinking himself, my goodness, I have a lot of assets with me. I have gold with me. At any moment, these thieves will come to my palace and rob these things. Best thing, I must leave this thing with this Tapasya. So then he went to this Tapasya and asked, Reverend Sir, I have this issue. Can we keep all my belongings, most valuable articles, in your hermit? Tapasa Rame Tiyandada. Then Reverend says, never, never. I never touch this. I can't do. Then one day, the head of the village, he invited the priest for a meal, Dane, to his palace. He had the meal. And again he pleaded, please keep all this my jewelry in your hermit. Then the priest said, okay, you go and hide wherever you want, but I don't like. Then after some time, this priest say, now I have too much attachment with the lay persons in this village. I have been taught not to stick to one place. You have to go on a voyage. So now I am going to leave this village. So then he decided to leave that village, and up to the board of that village, this head of the village accompanied. Then he came back. Then this Tapasya also came back saying, sorry, when I was having lunch at your premises, there was a the thread that belongs to you that was in my jatava. So then he honestly returned the thread back to the village owner. Now all these dialogue was witnessed by another intelligent person. That intelligent person is the Bodhisattva. In a previous birth, Lord Buddha, in his Bodhisattva Atma, Then he was now very suspicious. He was very suspicious. Then he told the head of the village, I'm very suspicious about this tapasya. Go and check whether the jewelry and other assets you hid in Tapasarame must be there, whether it is there. When they went and found those are missing, then they ran back and caught this priest, assaulted him mercilessly, and found the jewelry. I'm giving this story. When you go to this private sector corporate entity, you will be flowered, you will be ushered with so much courtesy and the hospitality. Never get trapped. Those innocent-looking persons are the most cunning people, right? So then that is how the things are. Creativity means it goes back to history. In before 2000 BC, there was a king in Greece. You know this story. He asked the person to prepare a crown in gold. Rattarang walin otunnak hadanna kiwwa. Then he made this crown and gave to the king. But king was not sure whether this contained pure gold. Then what happened? He called the most intelligent guy, or the philosopher in Greece, and gave a deadline. Before tomorrow, you have to say, without causing any damage to this crown, whether this is pure gold. I'm sure ladies must be very keen to know whether this is gold or not. So then this person, now this is the order from the king. He didn't have he can't do anything to the crown because ඔටුන්නේ හැඩයක් තියෙනවනේ. ඒකේ ප්‍රධාන ප්‍රශ්නය you can't measure the volume. පරිමාව මනින්න බෑනේ. හතරස් එක්කනම් පරිමාව මැන්නොත් since you know the weight and since you know the density, you can find out whether it's a genuine thing or not. The problem is to measure the volume of the otunna. He was thinking, and he was so now distressed. He went home, he went to the bathroom, went to the bathtub, and got into the bathtub. You know the story? When he went to the bathtub, what happened? The water in the bathtub spilled over. Oh, this is the way you have to think, forensic accountants. Then he realized, oh, what is the amount of the volume that went out from the tub? That is the volume of my body. That is the volume of my body. So then once the water goes out, you can measure that. He naked, he ran to the king's palace, saying, Eureka, Eureka, Eureka. Who is that gentleman? Who is that gentleman? Who is that gentleman? Sure. Have you heard any person by the name of Archimedes? Yes. So my wish is that these daughters and sons, you become Eurekas in this motherland. Because Lee Kuan Yew is not here. You can become your own Lee Kuan Yew. There is no reason or justification in blaming the bribery commission. There is no justification in blaming the CID. There is no justification in blaming the Attorney General. Have we played our role? Have we played our role? Are you prepared? At least on contract basis. Maybe 6 months, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years to join the bribery commission. Give your expertise to the bribery commission. Give your expertise to the CID. Give your expertise to the FIU. Because don't wait till others do the things. ඒකල කියන්න එපා ඇල්වේ ඔක්කොම හාල් මස්සුනේ. තල් මස්සු මුකුත් ඇල්වේ නෑනේ. We want others to do the things. So while admiring the pivotal role, the leadership skill shown by the University of California, I have the greatest honor for them, for producing these young children. Then next step is, you must come forward. This is our motherland. As Lee Kuan Yew said, my country, I don't have any assets. My assets is the integrity of my public servants. They are honorable, they are selected on merits, meritocracy. Finally, I would say the great quotation from Abdul Kalam. You know the Abdul Kalam story. When he was only 7 years, when he was alone at home, a neighbor has given him a gift of food. He opened the parcel, he started eating. He was very happy. Then this young boy's father came. He saw stars. He gave a strong warning to this young boy saying, why did you accept this gift? This neighbor came to my office. The father is a colonel, that is the head of the village. I had to do some official work to him. I did that. Now when you accept this bribe, herein after rest of my life, what will happen? I will have to serve him. I will become Attakolva. Never do this. So now this 7-year boy one day learned, got a doctorate in nuclear science, ultimately became the president of India, Abdul Kalam. At a prize giving when he was 65, he said this story. He says, beautiful quotation, if a country is to be corruption-free and become a nation of beautiful minds, I strongly feel there are 3 key societal members who can make a difference. They are the father, the mother, and the teacher. So you learn a lot from your partners. They are your teachers. Now you become teacher and train others, your colleagues and the future generation. Then we will have a beautiful nation sans the corruption. I wish you all the best for your future endeavors. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to me. Thank you very much.